All right, good morning. We're in our studio. We're live.
Very briefly, the defense talked about intent to kill and that the state's motive makes no sense. The defendant's testimony is that she came over to Alex to try to be friends and try to get on, But I want to show you briefly the journal that she wrote. This is journal number 2 that she writes from the night before. And she states, I would consider suicide daily. My mind would tell me I'm a failure and a monster. Become one of them. Told what to do and what to feel, using intellectual advantages against someone vulnerable and confused. I was so blind and followed the progression mindlessly. I was so close to ending my life. And this is how she describes Alex. I never gave their number or name in my contacts. I would look at them and not see beauty, but a big nose, a red nose too big for a face, where eyes looked dead, a brow jutting out of a large bulbous forehead, a smile that would make me cringe. Pores and veins stuck out on pasty, translucent skin, all felt like bugs under my skin. The scar on their wrist, red and deep, who was I kidding when I lied and told them otherwise? That is the defendant's feelings about Alex, the night before she killed her. Briefly want to go over the reasonable doubt instruction. The defense showed you part of it. I want to show you the rest of it, because this part is important. A reasonable doubt is not a doubt which is based on your guesswork or speculation. The doubt which arises merely from sympathy or from fear to return a verdict of guilt is not reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a doubt such as may be used to escape the responsibility of a decision. While it is your duty to give the defendant the benefit of every reasonable doubt, you are not to search for doubt. You are to search for the truth and give the defendant the benefit of a reasonable doubt if it arises in your minds after you've carefully considered all the evidence in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no reasonable doubt. There was no attack on the defendant. When you look at intent and you ask yourself, did she intend to kill Alexander Woodworth? Absolutely she did. You can look at not only the number of wounds, 16 times that she stabbed him, but you can consider the locations in that intent. The locations in the back of the head, slicing the neck, the scrotal sac, in both lungs. That shows intent to kill. And then you can think of her actions after. She takes his phone, destroys it and ditches it, doesn't call 911, doesn't get help for Alex. That shows that she intended to kill Alexander Woodworth. So when you go back in the deliberation room, you're going to have to pick a 4-person, and then you're going to have these 4 different crimes for you to consider. But you start at first-degree intentional homicide. If you don't believe the defendant's story, there's no question. You stay at first-degree intentional homicide. Then and only then, if you cannot all reach a consensus, then you can go to second-degree intentional homicide. But the facts of this case show that this was intentional. At the end of the day, this defense relies on an admitted liar with everything to gain and defense experts that have no firsthand information of what happened in this case. Regardless of any motive, there is no doubt that she intended to kill Alexander Woodworth. The defendant viciously stabbed him 16 times and left him there to die. And instead of getting help, she distracted law enforcement. Go to Owen Park. Forget about the man that I just stabbed and left there to die. When you look at these wounds, this was not anger. This was rage, and this was The state has shown beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, the self-described tricky fox, has committed the crime of first-degree intentional homicide, and I ask that you find her guilty. Thank you.
All right, good morning, tuned in. YouTube studio. There, YouTube in-house, live in the city, live in courtroom.
All right.
This hour, good morning.
Now, members of the jury, the duties of counsel and the court have been performed. The case has been argued by counsel. The court has instructed you regarding the rules of law which should govern you in your deliberations. The time has now come when the great burden of reaching a just, fair, and conscientious decision of this case is to be thrown wholly upon you, the jurors, selected for this important duty. You will not be swayed by sympathy, prejudice, or passion. You will be very careful and deliberate in weighing the evidence. I charge you to keep your duty steadfastly in mind, and as upright citizens, render a just and true verdict. You are to decide only whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty of the offense charged. Any consequences of your verdict are matters for the court alone to decide and must not affect your deliberations. The following 5 forms of verdict will be submitted to you concerning the charges against defendant Ezra J. McCandless. 1 reading. We, the jury, find the defendant Ezra J. McCandless guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in the information. If you find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional homicide, answer the following question, yes or no. Did the defendant commit the crime of first-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Another reading. We, the jury, find the defendant Ezra J. McCandless guilty of second-degree intentional homicide in violation of Section 940.05 of the Criminal Code of Wisconsin at the time and place charged in the information. If you find the defendant guilty of second-degree intentional homicide, answer the following question, yes or no. Did the defendant commit the crime of second-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? In the third reading, we, the jury, find the defendant Ezra J. McCandless guilty of first-degree reckless homicide in violation of Section 940.02 of the Criminal Code of Wisconsin at the time and place charged in the information. If you find the defendant guilty of first-degree reckless homicide, answer the following question, yes or no. Did the defendant commit the crime of first-degree reckless homicide while using a dangerous weapon? In the fourth reading, we, the jury, find the defendant Ezra J. McCandless guilty of second-degree reckless homicide in violation of 940.06 of the Criminal Code of Wisconsin at the time and place charged in the information. If you find the defendant guilty of second-degree reckless homicide, answer the following question, yes or no. Did the defendant commit the crime of second-degree reckless homicide while using a dangerous weapon? And the fifth reading, we, the jury, find the defendant Ezra J. McCandless not guilty. It is for you to determine which one of the forms of verdict submitted you will bring in as your verdict. This is a criminal, not a civil case. Therefore, before the jury may return a verdict which may legally be received, the verdict must be reached unanimously. In a criminal case, all 12 jurors must agree in order to arrive at a verdict. When you retire to the jury room, select one of your members to preside over your deliberations. The presiding juror's vote is entitled to no greater weight than the vote of any other juror. If you need to communicate with the court while you are deliberating, send a note through the bailiff signed by the presiding juror. To have a complete record of this trial, it is important that you communicate with the court only by a written note. If you have questions, the court will talk with the attorneys before answering, so it may take some time. You should continue your deliberations while you wait for an answer.
All right,
The
you're
court
tuning
will answer any questions in writing
YouTube studio
or
and
orally
house.
here in open court.
Video aired
When you have
guests
agreed
from
upon
live
your
in the
verdict,
city's
have it signed
courtroom.
and dated by the person
Watching
who
the
has
trial.
selected to preside. After you have reached a verdict, the presiding juror will notify the bailiff that a verdict has been reached. Everyone will return to the courtroom. The verdict will be read into the record in open court, and the court may ask each of you